Good evening, students. Do you hear me?
Yes, teacher. Certainly.
Okay, Flor, thank you. Well, I uploaded today the feedback of some of the lessons that you video recorded. I'm still working on watching more videos, so please, by the end of the week, I hope to give the feedback to all of you. But, well, some of you already have it, so please read it. If you have questions about the feedback, let me know. The idea is that you take into account the suggestions that I wrote for you to write the second lesson plan, which will be due on Sunday the 30th. So it will mean that next week you will be working on writing the second lesson plan. Well, tonight the idea is to talk about the information that you read and you watched in the video last week about 21st century skills. So you had actually a video, you had some readings, there was a map, and a short reading about jobs for the future. And well, I would like to know from that information that you read and you watched, what do you remember, what called your attention, what do you think you can apply? What was relevant for you?
Well, teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, George.
Okay. Well, first, well, after reading, watching the videos, well, one conclusion that I came up with was simply that, well, teaching actually has changed. You know, the goals and everything is totally different. So, in order to achieve uh, what they call, well, the things students should be doing for to get a on literature or something are things that cannot be developed through traditional classes. So that's why maybe we're taking like team projects. We're trying to see how students work together, how they solve problems, how they react emotionally to different circumstances. And well, so classes should change and should aim to cover those ideals, I guess.
Okay, yeah, so we need to take into account now more skills than before, right? And this is because it's a requirement um, from different workplaces, from different companies. What they have realized that they need in the places where they in their business and what the world needs, right? What else called your attention?
In my personal opinion, I was thrilled by the way they see the modes of communication when they talk about interpersonal mode, the interpretive mode, the presentational mode,
Mm.
which is quite different from the basic reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. They would see that according to a context and situations that language users would require to communicate effectively. And when they try to define each one of the 21st century skills, that um, at some point, what the document try to do is to let language teachers know that we're not basically teaching the same things when we're teaching a language, just getting people to use the language just for the sake of it, but we can strive for other things or other skills that the students need to do as they become, efficient or proficient communicators of the language that they're trying to learn. So that was totally like changing the traditional way of seeing language teaching to seeing language teaching as a way to generate skills or to foster skills for world citizenship.
Good. So in a way, they are giving us some context, right, to present the language. Again, it's wrong to prepare a lesson thinking about a grammar topic. But what we need to think is about a context where they can use it. That's what Giancarlo was saying here. So we see different examples in the map that you read. So we have that they divided, um, they present some examples on how the activities can be communicated. So as Giancarlo mentioned, was interpersonal mode, interpretative mode, or presentation mode. So if we ask students to present something orally or in a written way, if we ask students to um, understand something they read or something they listened, or if we ask them to interact with their classmates to present the information of the activity. And as you see, the examples that they present in the map is not about um, they try to um, choose activities close to reality, like for example this one here, students prepare an electronic info brief in the target language that provides information about daily life in the United States to prepare for a visit from an EPAL from the target language country. So something like they can actually could deal with in real life. Blanca wrote, in order to prepare students for the future, a focus on creativity, communication, critical thinking is essential. And Carlo wrote, exactly, it's like give more importance to the context where communication takes place. Okay. Who else wants to tell us about the information that you found relevant or how you think you can apply it? Something that you remember from the video or the readings?
Teacher.
Flor.
Well, there is a particular information, and for me it was very curious because up to now I think, or I thought that we have to focus our teacher learning process in order to improve the four abilities of the students, like speaking, reading, and writing, and listening. But in the reading, I saw that we have to go more than of that object because we have to improve on students' important abilities like interpersonal, interpretative, presentational mode in order to improve not only our four traditional skills but also to improve another like communication, connection, comparison, the ability to improve the ability of the students to prepare like the Blanca said for the future. So for me it was very curious.
Okay, actually, Flor, in the lesson that you video recorded, you promote one of the skills that are listed here, and is technology. So you prepare an activity in which the students had to use the computer
Yes,
um,
I did
in groups
already.
to prepare an infograph. So it is not that we need to promote the development of all the skills in one lesson, but actually we can change from one lesson to the other and make it more like dynamic, different in each class. So we could develop a different skill of the ones that are listed here in each class.
Yes, teacher. I had I did that kind of activity in order to improve the communicative skills in my students.
Okay, good. Adley wrote, for the critical thinking, it is important to face students with the language used in real life in order for the students to develop communicative skills to use language in context when they need it. It will engage students with their own process. Okay. Who else wants to tell about the information that called your attention? Which other skills do you remember that were listed in the map or that were mentioned in the video?
Well, I remind something about how to teach all skills, and I remember some of them, like foster reflective reasoning and analysis, called to my attention. Offer appropriate praise, provide clear learning objectives, targeting explicit skills. What else? Create a safe environment for learning. Break down learning into smaller pieces, I mean coordinated pieces. I paid attention to them.
Something that I found in most of the videos that I have watched so far is that all of you, or most of you, have very good skills to avoid anxiety in the class. You have good rapport with the students, and that's very important so they can take the risk to talk and to try to use the language. That's really, really good. Blanca, you mentioned one of the skills is to have students reflect. How do you think that could be promoted?
How students reflect?
Yes, you read one of the skills that you mentioned as the ones that call your attention is to help students reflect on what they do.
Oh yes. I think that is to ask students or to give students some instructions in order for them to, in order for teachers to promote critical thinking in the students. Because it is important for them to analyze everything they are doing in class.
So they are aware of their doing. So because most of you
Yes,
are working with
consciously.
adults, right? So for the type of learners, they can they have the ability to be conscious of what they do and why they do it.
Yes, I'm working with teenagers, and I noticed that for not only for me but for them, it's important to analyze everything we are doing together. And I know also that they are very motivated when I push them to do that.
And they like to try it out. The
Yes,
something that
very
I like
much.
from your class, Blanca, is that your students are beginners and they are not very fluent, but you have the ability to elicit information from them. It is like to have a conversation, actually a relaxing conversation. The topic that you chose was healthy food or healthy habits regarding food, and that's something that students like because they study that, right? They
Uh,
study.
well, they are finishing high school, but one of them is planning to study to be a nutritionist. So they are very interested in that topic. Yeah.
Good. That you have that ability of listening to their answers and come up with other questions to continue the conversation, and that's really nice because it's it's just a relaxing conversation. They do their best to communicate. They make a lot of mistakes because they are beginners, but they try and they like it, so that's really good.
Yes, because they are, I felt that they were during that video, they were very motivated with the topic and with the class and with the relationship that we were able to develop.
Good. In the feedback, I just wrote that you need to find out a way to correct some mistakes, to find out the correct time, probably at the end of the lesson, to correct some of their mistakes because they make a lot. You need to choose like the ones that you want to focus on the class.
Yeah. Okay.
Good,
Thanks.
Blanca. Anything else that you remember from the material that you read or something that you want to share?
Teacher, I remember that like in the material that we read, there were like there was like some different information about like the skills that students are supposed to learn today. I mean, are not like that the students are supposed to learn like specific topics that are in a curriculum, but they are supposed to learn some skills that are important for them to survive or to uh, like live in the society nowadays. So, example like the economic topics, like they are very important nowadays. No, like that they have to study like science or social science or like those type of things, but they have instead of that to acquire like some skills to live in the society nowadays.
Exactly. And they come from, as I mentioned before, from business and they have, actually one of the videos is about the economic forum. Do you remember? Economic forum where people get together to talk about what is necessary for the future in terms to keep economy working well. These are like the competences that you mentioned earlier. So for this chart, they were divided into 3 different groups. We have literacies, we have competences, and we have character qualities. So you mentioned the literacies, which are literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, and cultural and civic literacy. And people also need to develop some qualities like being curious, have initiative, be persistent, have adaptability, try to become leaders, social and cultural awareness. And the competences are related to know how to work with others, how to communicate, to be creative, and to solve problems, know how to solve problems. Okay, who else wants to mention something that called the attention, or probably you reflected on how you can apply this information to your classes?
I have something
Yeah,
again,
Carlos.
but I don't know if somebody else wants to talk. I will allow the frame. But it was in the section on how to teach skills, and they were talking about the play-based learning. I mean, how important it is to play, you know, sometimes in a classroom in order to encourage students to acquire these skills. Like there are some people, and I found people that are from the traditional school of language teaching that are against using games in the classroom. And the fact that when I read this information, I actually used it to share with some of my friends who are also teaching English that are against this. And the interesting thing here is that here we're talking about the 21st century life skills and like all these skills here. And it's sometimes a controversial topic in English teaching, but when you see it that it's also encouraged to be used to teach other skills as you teach English, it calls my attention a lot, and I actually I'm trying to dive deeper into this and how can we apply this in our classrooms.
Teacher,
Well, I'm sorry, Sharon. And what we can connect that, or we can connect what Giancarlo just mentioned with the previous virtual encounter that we had when there was an explanation from neuroscience about why actually games help students or help people learn. So actually they are very positive. Sharon, please tell me your opinion.
teacher, for me was quite interesting about these 21st century skills because in my case, in the school I work, we are working with the 21st century reading skills book from the National Geographic Learning. So based on the work with this book about the tech talks and all that things, I research from other resources about this, and also I attend to a conference about it. So for me, try to involve these skills into my classroom at the beginning was quite hard because some students are raised for saying something with the idea that they only have to focus on grammar and only listen to the teacher and quite a traditional way to learn. But when I try to figure how I can improve the curiosity in them and make them or let them to take the initiative for propose topics and all that thing was at the beginning hard, but when they feel that confidence, they start saying and participating and say, teacher, we like grammar, but we can do it in this way. So we figure several things, and in this slide that you are showing, the most important part for me and what I like the most was the character qualities that, which involve curiosity, initiative, persistence, which is um, very important when they are acquire knowledge and acquire um, the not acquire, just improving the way they use language, and leadership and this social and cultural awareness, because in my case I like to share a lot with students and share experiences and make sharing activities like brainstorm and all that thing. So this 21st century skills is not only related with our classrooms, it's also like in the readings that for looking for a job and try to get involved in a new society. So I think, I mean, both three parts of the slide are very important, but for me, in my case, the last one is the one of the most important.
Okay. Thanks for your opinion, Sharon. Um, yeah, so like those books that you mentioned, National Geographic, some of them are organized in such a way that they give us very good ideas on how to elicit information from the students and have them work in pairs to solve problems, to come up with other ideas that emerge from the readings. So they are pretty good. Also, what you mentioned about grammar is important. So this is again telling us that we need to stop thinking on a lesson, an English lesson, as a way to teach a grammar topic. But communication is in everything we do every day, many situations. So there is no restriction on a specific grammar topic when we communicate. That is what it is telling us, this material is telling us. So we should not, again, plan a lesson based on a grammar topic, but based on a situation. So what do I want my students to be good at the end of the lesson? Do I want them to give the short opinion about a specific problem regarding society, or a specific difference among two cultures, or financial problem, or something they need to finances at home, for example, or a scientific experiment? What do I want my students to give their opinion at the end, or to talk about at the end of the lesson? So it's not just to tell one accurate sentence in present simple using adjectives, for example. That's not the aim of, that should not be the aim of an English lesson. But to again focus on what we want them to communicate, and be less controllers. So when we plan the lesson based on grammar and vocabulary, we want to control what they are going to say. We give them a list of, for example, vocabulary. We have them practice that, those words in a controlled way. So that's not what should be done. But we should have them like to ask the question. So if we want them to give their opinion, very short, let's say, opinion about the difference between the food that is eaten into different parts of the world. So we can have them, we can present an example, and then, well, if they are beginners, we will help them to understand that information But by the time they need to give their opinion, they need to ask questions about vocabulary. So we don't give them a list of words for them to practice along the lesson. But we give them a problem to solve, a question to answer, a task to develop, a project if it is going to be a little bit more complex to work on, for them to act, to be dynamic, to be more active during the lesson. I'm going to read what some of you wrote in the chat box. Arley wrote that it demands as teachers, that it demands you as a teacher to know not only about grammar and language, but to know about these other fields. In case of science, in case of ICTs, right? Lida wrote 21st century skills remind us that we are not just teaching grammar and vocabulary, we are preparing students to face life and to become global citizens. We teach them to be able to be competitive in life and active members of our society. Exactly. So how can we apply this information that you read and watched in the lessons? Which do you consider is a good exercise to develop one of these skills? Or what other information called your attention?
Sorry, teacher. I want to say that for me, this is not teaching a different language. For me, this is educating people. And through the education, they are going to learn a new language. That is was meaningful for me.
Okay. And have you thought about how you can change or apply this information in your lessons? How can you develop one of the skills?
Teacher, I think this is not the way that we are being trained for teaching a language, because we are being trained for teaching skills, not for educating people. So this is a big challenge for us. I think so.
Okay. You're right. So, like, we should have in the program probably a class that reminds us that we need not only to teach the language, but also um, to help children be good citizens and be able to react to different problems in their daily life. What else? What else do you think is important to highlight from these readings and the video? Maybe some of you would be interested in trying projects. If you want to change to projects during the next videos, it's okay for me. If you want to try to experience how to work with projects. So some of you who have those students on a regular basis during the weeks, during 2 or 3 days during the week, or once a week, you could probably try it out how to work with projects with those students, and by the time you need to video record the second lesson, you can let me know in what part of the project your students are, so that I know that the lesson that you will record has a sequence or has a previous had previous stages in relation to the project. Somebody else who wants to talk about the information that you read, the information that you watched. Remember that there was also readings about jobs that are necessary for the future. Some programs, some fields that need to be studied. Do you remember that? One of the readings mentioned these fields like important for the future, so artificial intelligence and machine learning, robotics, nanotechnology, 3D printing, genetics, and biotechnology as some areas that will be important in the near future. I'm going back to the map to check like some of the ideas that map presents. Here we have the map. So we have on the top we have the skills, communication, collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, information literacy, media literacy, technology literacy, flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, social and cross-cultural skills, productivity and accountability, leadership and responsibility. And there we have like different examples for each one of them and for different levels, novice, intermediate, and advanced. So those of you who don't want to try with projects, you could probably take one of the examples that are given here and try to prepare a lesson using those examples or one of the examples to try to develop one of the skills that are listed here. Does anybody remember any example that called the attention that you think you could try, that you find interesting?
Teacher, in our slide, you have an interesting activity. I think going to an eco tour. Actually, you can go to the forest, something to the, I mean, you can make like excursion, and you can plan the excursion in the class, and then you can go with your students if they are allowed to go to an eco tour, and you can practice there what you plan in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds interesting to me.
Good. So you could probably try that in one of the lessons and see how it works. Good, Andres. Any
Teacher,
other?
regarding, oh, I'm sorry.
Go, Blanca.
Yeah, me. Okay, sorry. Um, well, my previous class was about culture and history because one of my students is interested in those topics. So I prepared that class regarding the Anne Frank's diary. And we have discussed about them, and my students developed a lot of activities around Anne Frank's diary, and I think they were very exciting doing that. But I faced a little bit a problem because I'm new teaching, and I sometimes I'm not prepared um, to solve some problems. And well, when we went to a grammar topic. It was about the simple past versus past perfect simple. And well, I prepared also some exercises for them to do it to them. And I found that they were not prepared for those exercises. Anyway, they understood the differences and how they can use those simple past and past perfect in terms of analyzing the actions. But the problem was that, well, I had limited time in my head, of course, because I really don't want to limit them, I mean the students, but they were asking me a lot of questions regarding regular verbs and irregular verbs. So I was trying to fish why they were not able to understand those conjugations because it was simple for them in my head. I thought that. So I had to stop the class, and I needed to start teaching them how to construct sentences and how to follow the verbs, the conjugation of verbs in each sentence. And well, I was not able to finish my lesson plan because I didn't have time. I spent a lot of time trying to make that the students understood very well how they needed to use those verbs. And well, so I don't know. I was a little bit afraid because I didn't know if I did that very, very good, or if I had to finish the lesson and to prepare a new lesson with that grammar topic. That's my question. I wanted to translate to you my problem because I was not able to solve it very well.
Okay. So, if students need more time, that is what we need to give them more time to uh, work on the activities. So we can sometimes plan um, a list of exercises, but the students need more time to do them. So and that's the way it works. So if any of you plan a lesson and then when you are teaching, you find out that the activities students need more time to finish the activities, then we just give them more time to do it. And it doesn't matter if we don't finish the lesson as we planned. But if that stage that you told us was important for them to continue with the lesson and uh, to communicate about what they were reading, so um, it was necessary to give them the explanation if that was like um, important to continue with what they were doing during that class. But
So for
I,
my
I,
next lesson,
I didn't understand what they were discussing. They were reading about history, right?
they were reading about how Anne Frank lived during her hidden.
Mm, and
And okay.
you
But
want
the
them to
problem was not
summarize?
there because they were able to understand. Excuse me?
Yes. Did you want them to summarize like the most important experiences that Anne Frank wrote in her diary?
And they did it very well. The problem was when I decided to start working with the grammar stage. And they had problems to understand the differences between the simple past tense versus past perfect tense. So they were able to develop the exercises that I prepared for them to do. But I realized that they had no idea how to use the verbs in general. So I decided to stop the class and to explain to them since how to construct the sentence. But my concern was that I was not able to finish the plan that the class that I planned for them. So my question in this moment is: I did very well. I did good. I mean,
Was it okay?
I did what I had to do. Yeah, explain in that time to them how to use the verbs, or I it was better to continue with the class and to prepare a new class with that topic. That's one question. And the other question is, um, if I was not able to finish this class, can I start my new lesson plan with the finish of this class and then to continue with another topic?
Yes, you can start the next class with the same topic until you feel they are ready for the new topic. And what I
Okay.
understood is that after they read, they were able to talk about their main events on on Ant's life or the experience that they were reading. They were able to actually talk about it, but they were having problems with grammar. So what they said was understood, but it was not accurate. And when I understood is that at that moment you realize that it was time to explain some grammar. So
Yes.
in my opinion, it was good. So you first focus on having them understand the reading, and they were able to tell what they have understood from it. But they had some mistakes. So by the end, after they actually told what they have understood, you focus on grammar, which is what we should do. After we have them talk and communicate, we can work on helping them to correct some mistakes.
Okay.
If it took them more time to understand, well, that's what they need, more time to practice more, and you can start the next lesson with a review of the topic. before moving to
Okay.
a new topic.
Okay. I got it. Thank you.
Okay, now let's see the chat. Arley wrote, there are some fields and some jobs that are going to be important in the near future, and education has to focus on it. Yes, like regarding the nanotechnology, use of ICTs, and the other ones that were listed in the reading about jobs that are important for the future.
Teacher, good evening.
Good evening.
I think that the reading was really interesting. I liked a lot the different activities proposed for the reading. For example, because in that case, they try to show us how it's important to introduce the technologies inside the classroom. For example, when the student have to research for or analyze some specific topics. I like the topic when they have to research about the summer study abroad. So you have to receive for the rent, for the location, for how many they have to pay for the course or different ways, and they have to work in pairs. And maybe in that case, they can introduce the multimedia tools to present their final work, and I think that is really important. And I don't know how can we use these kind of activities or type of activities with an elementary skill. When, for example, in my case, the child doesn't have access to the internet connection in the school, or maybe in the multimedia lab, or I don't know, sometimes maybe it could be difficult, or in that case maybe we can give or Hanan the readings, specific readings, but I don't know how can I use this kind of activities in an elementary school, especially for the second or third grade.
Okay, well, in the case that you are mentioning, so that is students don't have access to computers for that lesson, so you could probably focus on a different skill, not related with technology, but literacies, financial literacies, media literacy, the ones that are here. So we have like examples here, but it does probably by reading the examples, we can think about other exercises, other activities we can have students work in the class.
Maybe I can show in a video, and then have to analyze and then maybe draw something in group, or maybe I don't know, could be
Yes,
a good idea.
yes, that's a good idea. So you focus on what you want them to analyze in the video. What is the information that you want them to analyze, right? So you have them analyze it, and then probably discuss with the classmate what they understood and draw something related to the video.
Okay, teacher. And I have another question, because I have a problem with the second recording. And I was the schedule timetable, and said that we have to send you the video until 14th of October. But in my case, my students are in a school break, so for me it was really difficult. I don't know if I can I record my video and send you on 20th of October, because it's impossible to record before the video, teacher.
Yes, you can do it. You can do it. Remember that I have 2 weeks to check the videos, because the class, because of the amount of students that I have in the class. So if you cannot video record for the deadline, so you can video record it for the second week, for the next week. next
Okay.
week after the deadline.
Okay, and with the last video, teacher, because my students finish the school year on 16th of November, so maybe I need to record sorry, in 9th, so I need to record the video maybe the second week of November, but I don't know, maybe I can send you before the planning, and because I need your feedback before to record the video, so I don't know if a possibility that I can
So,
send you before.
yes, okay. In that case, also you can send the lesson plan a week before, so I can check it and give you feedback by the time you video record the lesson.
Okay, teacher. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, who else wrote something in the chat? Yeah, so as Joanna mentioned, some of you will have the ones that work for schools will have a break in October. I didn't know what was exactly the week. So if it's the week when you have the deadline to publish the link of the video, so you could video record the lesson a week later and then send me the link. Okay. Anybody else have like opinions on the readings that you had last week, on the video? Something that you want to share, an experience, an activity that you think is helpful to develop one of these skills? Okay, so my advice is to check the examples that we have here that you could probably use in your future lessons, or that probably can give you ideas on other exercises that you can implement in your future lessons. Questions about the information that you read?
I don't have questions, but I think the document is a very interesting framework so that we can get to, because sometimes we hear people talking about 21st century skills and we need to teach 21st century skills to our students, but sometimes we lack frameworks like this, with clear examples and definitions of what the skills are so that we can, as you are suggesting, try to design our lessons and implement even at the activity level or task level one of these skills in our classrooms. So I think it was a very interesting and powerful tool, the one that you provided us with this activity for last week.
Okay, I'm glad you find it interesting. Please try some of them, try some of the exercises there, probably before the next video that you need to record. See how it works, and let us know. That's like a suggestion for all of you. Like, we tend to do the same in our lessons, so why not to try something new and see how it works?
Teacher, I want to share something with you. A friend of mine who's living in Holland um, she got the citizen there, but she explained to me that she had to learn all of those things in, like, they have to take some classes and they teach them those things, like the politics, culture, um, how to behave in society, those things. So I think this is very trustful because they implemented that many times before. So they're doing that with people who want to get the citizen there in Holland.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
I think it works.
it is important because communication, I mean, one of the ideas of learning a second language is to interact with people from other countries. And that means that we need to understand different cultures, how people behave or think in other places in the world. So, planning, for example, a lesson about different differences among cultures, two or three cultures, or that would be useful and interesting as well. So, and as Andres mentioned, in other countries, it is necessary to have that knowledge if a person wants to get the citizenship of that place. That happens in Canada, that happens in the United States. So people need to take a test uh, about knowledge on politics, knowledge on culture, uh, knowledge about the society of that place in order to get the citizenship. Good. Other comment, questions? Okay, uh, by Sunday or by Saturday, I will send you information that that we will use to discuss in our next virtual encounter. And hopefully, as I said at the beginning of the encounter, I will finish grading all the lessons that you video record by the end of the week. So you can start writing the second lesson plan next week. Good. So I'm going to stop encounter now. Thank you for your participation. Any question you might have, please email me. And as I said, I will send you by Sunday or Saturday the information that we will discuss in the next virtual encounter. Thank you, Oli. Have a good night.
Thank you, teacher. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, teacher, for all. Thank you very much. Really.